Hello guys, my name is Washington. Today let's gonna make some texture and baking. Okay. For the texturing, I'm gonna be using my generator, which is Easy Texture Generator. This is a simple pipe, and I'm gonna show you how to texture that and bake it as an asset for a gaming engine. Let's say. Okay. First of all, we need to unwrap it. I'm gonna unwrap this in an easier way, which is using just the automatic unwrap, right? Which I'm gonna do that pressing U and Smart UV project. Okay, so this way, if you check it out, the UVs here, you see those are my UVs. Okay, this is a very simple object, and the way you are doing that, you can do that using UDIMS as well. UDIMS is a largely used technique for high quality texture. But for the purpose of this, I'm gonna do that simple, right? Maybe in the future, I'm gonna show you a tutorial how to do that in UDIMS, okay? And for the bake, I'm not gonna use a default Blender bake because this is the default Blender bake has some drawbacks, and it's not that easy to use. I know how to use that, but it's just take time, okay? To have to create a texture for each material and blah blah blah, and lots of things, right? It's long, okay? For baking, I'm gonna use this add-on here, Simple Bake, which is a huge time save. It saved my life, honestly. It's not my add-on. Easy Texture is my add-on. Both are gonna be in the link below, but Simple Bake is just one of the best add-ons that I ever bought in my life. Honestly, it's something that it worth every single penny on it, because it basically gives you what Substance Painter, for example, does for baking. Okay, you can just choose all your PBR bake things, and it automatically bakes all the maps one after another. You don't need to bake it manually, and replace automatically on your object as if you want. Okay, so it basically, it's fast. Okay, it doesn't use cycles for everything, so it's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to do that, but for now let's focus on texturing. Okay, this material is simple. We have just three different materials, one for this guy, one for this base, and one for the screws. Okay, let's go into rendering. And for texturing, I'm gonna be using Easy Texture Creator. The link is below if you want it, okay? Because this is gonna help me to make my life way easier and achieve high quality. Okay, you don't just need to connect color with color, metallic with metallic, roughness, alpha, if you have an alpha. If you don't have it, doesn't matter, normals, and specular. Okay, so with this setup, you already can create a big deal of texture, right? Of course, you can play around with the other settings of your principal shader. That it's up to you, okay? But that for now, it's enough for us, okay? First of all, Easy Texture, for who that doesn't know, they are based on those panels here, right? You have edge mask, leak, wetness. I'm gonna go into each of them, but I'm gonna go fast because I don't want to spend too much time on this. Okay, I want to be a quick tutorial. Okay, so I'm gonna have some rusty edges overall because it's not gonna be a clean object. It's gonna be a object that it's being used for a long time, so it's gonna be a little bit rust and things like that. So I'm gonna use edge mask first. I'm gonna take this edge mask and put it, crank this guy up a little bit. And I'm gonna play around with the noise of it, something like this, right? But maybe not too much, something very minimal. Maybe you can see here, something like this, right? Maybe add some scratches, or just a noise. Maybe it's good enough. The noise is good enough. Okay, so this is the base for the edge mask. Leak, it's like as if it was raining or something. I'm gonna use some leak here, but to see the leak properly, I have to go to my diffuse and change the color, okay, my material. So now I'm seeing the leak, okay, because the leak has a default texture. It's to be kind of multiplied texture. So I have some leakness happening here. I kind of like it already, but I'm gonna go Z up a little bit. So I'll have something more like this, okay? Something more. I want that to be affected here as well, so I will play around a little bit more. Under the settings, which settings I have? I have extension down, so that can gives me a little bit of more range for my leakness, and then I'm gonna bring the Z down or something like that. Something like that, right? Something like that. This area is still too market here. I don't want to have that market here, so I'm gonna play around. This is the top, by the way. Top affected is 1. If I turn it 0, it's not affected at all, okay? But I want to have the top affected, but with some noisy, okay? So something like this, right? So something like this, and then I'm going to play around with my top effectiveness. Something like this, and play around with the noise, top noise, scale as well, right? To take me more imperfections, okay? Something like this is good enough for me. That's my leak mask, okay? But then now I'm gonna reduce. I just want to have a little bit of it, okay? And for this, I will leave it like that. But if I want, I can kind of remove the scale of my noise, not the top noise scale, but the scale of my noise. I put 0, and then it's gonna be like a perfect, leak. But I want to have imperfections on my leak, so I can go even crazy on the imperfections, on something like this, right? To be even more rush. Okay, I think that's okay. That's good enough. I kind of like it. Okay, I will leave it like that for now. And now I'm going to the wetness. The wetness, I'm not going to play that much with the wetness here, because the wetness is something coming from the ground, right? It's a mask coming from the ground, and it can be wet, it can be something, right? Like as if there was a water and the object was on top of the water, so the base is a little bit wet. I'm not going to play this here, maybe this guy down here, and you will see. Okay, the diffuse for now, it's white, but what's going to happen is I'm going to put it a little bit like this, and I'm going to play around with the mask, the diffuse right now here. So I will create some imperfections, okay, on my metallic pipe, something like this. It's good enough. I'm happy with that. On the diffuse size 2, I will kind of also blend a little bit these two diffuse. So I will create some different RGB on this guy. But for blending diffuse 1 and diffuse 2, I'm gonna blend it here, okay? So I'm gonna crank this guy up, crank this guy down, and I will start to see the mask of it, how it's going. And then I will scale this guy up a little bit, something like this, okay? So right now it's blending between diffuse 1 and diffuse 2. This is diffuse 1 and this is diffuse 2. You see, diffuse 2. Look at that. You see? So I'm gonna leave it diffuse 2 on something more or less like maybe this second one, something more or less like this. This one bit down, and I will play around with my masks here, something like this, right? And having maybe something like this, something like that. Okay, play around with my scale, something like this. And the mask between diffuse 1 and 2, I want to add some details here. So I will blend and it's detailed, okay? But maybe I don't want that much of difference in RGB. Maybe it has to be a little bit more, it has to be more sorrow to me, honestly. So I'm gonna crank this guy a little bit down, and not that much difference on RGB. Something, maybe something like that. And this guy, something like this, okay? Something like this, maybe, okay? Okay, something like that. And in my blend diffuse 1 and diffuse 2, I can crank it up the contrast of my mask, right, on something like this. Yeah, something like that maybe, right? Okay. So now I'm going to my metallic, and I'm gonna give it this guy a pure metallic function, which is just bring this guy to white. So now it's pure metallic. I'm going to roughness, and I'm gonna do the same. Put this into black, so it's pure roughness. But I want that to be blended with the whole overall material. So if I do not mix this factor, if I put this 0, it's basically it's taking whatever material I have it added before diffuse 1 and diffuse 2 and applying this into my mixed factor. Okay, so that may work for you, but I'm gonna kind of blending between both, something like this. Okay, so I have something going on, but it's not so obvious. Okay, so maybe a little bit less, so we see a little bit more details here. Okay, something like this. This is my metallic pipe overall, and I don't want to have metallic in everything, so I'm also gonna blend it a little bit here, okay, with my overall material. Okay, something like this. That's gonna be my pipe. Okay, and specular, I'm gonna, this is the same thing, right? But I'm gonna invert, play around a little bit with the specular. The specular now it's nice. I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay, and so now I'm going to my normals, which is this guy here, and I'm gonna, oh, by the way, for the roughness, I'm gonna give it a lichtness effect. So it's kind of giving the lichtness more rough than overall. Okay, so now you see you have your lichtness showing more obvious, right, than the original one, than the rest of the material. Okay, so now I'm going to my normals, and that's going to make a big difference. And I'm going to put my bump range to 1. So now I have my bump going on overall. Diffuse 1 is 0, and diffuse 1 is 0.5, and diffuse 2 is 0.5, which is okay. But I want to give it an extra depth between diffuse 1 and diffuse 2, and that's gonna be here. Okay, so as soon as I crank this guy up, I'm gonna kind of creating a blend in a mask between diffuse 1 and diffuse 2, and cranking this guy up, so we can see now it's cranking a lot. Okay, I don't want to crank that much between these two guys here, and I also can add a secondary texture, an intermediate color like a black one or something in between these guys. I'm gonna give it something like this and cranking up the contrast to something like this. Okay, okay, something like that, if that makes sense. Or cranking up the contrast at the maximum, so I'm gonna have it something more like this, right? So if I want to have even more at the edges, even more prominent, I can crank this guy up more and this guy less, more, you see, and I'm starting to reduce overall difference between one and the other one, like this. You see, it's up to you, whatever you think it makes sense to you. That's what you have to do. Okay, so right now I'm gonna go to my bump mask and maybe invert it. No, I would leave it like that, just cranking less. I don't want to have that much difference, right? Something like this is good enough for me. Okay, I like this metallic object. That's good for me. Okay, and I also want to, if I want to have the leakness, the leak effectiveness, I will just crank this guy up, and it's not placing normals on my leakness now. That's not what I want. Okay, but on my rust edge, which is this guy here, I'm gonna apply a rust texture, or I can just apply a texture here in my edge mask, which is this guy. Now I'm just gonna go just maybe into the rust more or less color, right? But honestly, I want to apply a texture. So Ctrl T if you have node wrangle and connect your texture here. I would leave it like at a box, and object UV, open. Oh no, actually I have my browser here. I will go to metal, look for my rusty texture, and this guy may works. Okay, this guy works. Okay, I will bring this guy here and put it in the box, connect, and connect this guy here. Okay, so now I have my texture, Cooper texture applied here, and I just need to scale this a little bit to see how it will look like. Okay, we may not see that much now, but if we crank this guy up, then we will see more how our texture look like. Okay, and in the normals, I'm gonna go to my the edges, and I'm gonna rust the edges, and I'm gonna emphasize my rustness in my edges, something like this. All right, something like this. But it's not that scale. I'm gonna scale down again. I just want a little bit, okay, on something like this, right? Maybe a little bit more, something like this. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, if we go to our normal, and we can go to our rust edge, and we can reduce it a little bit, and we can control how the rust will look like here. Okay? In our roughness, yeah, I would kind of invert it a little bit, because I don't want to have my rust edges that much of a metallic, right? Something like this. I think something like this is kind of pretty good to me, honestly. Yeah, something like this is pretty good to me. Right? Overall, like this. Yeah. So that's gonna be my main pipe. And then what is this? I'm gonna just copy this guy and go back to material 2, which is this component here, and paste. Okay, and I just need to connect overall, right? Roughness and specular as well. So now I have this material down here, which is the complement of the pipe. Okay, but in this guy I'm gonna play a little bit different, because I will give this base a different color. Okay, so for that I'm gonna go to diffuse 1, and instead of having this set up here, I will maybe have what should be maybe a bluish or something, right? bluish or something, and the diffuse tool also something like bluish. Okay, something like bluish, and this guy little bit bluish, something like this. Okay, but I will keep the same kind of different. I will keep the same overall feeling because it's a metal that has the same thing. The only thing that I'm gonna apply here differently will be, of course, the wetness coming from beneath. Okay, wetness coming from beneath, or I can also play around with my edge, with my leak. Okay, because right now my leak is down there. It's not affecting that much here, but I want to affect a little bit down here as well. Okay, something like this is good. But now I want to have my wetness as well, and my wetness is coming from beneath, something like this. Okay, and my wetness, I'm gonna give it a huge contrast, something like this. Mask scale on something maybe like that. Okay, and a fade, I will fade a little bit down and reduce the contrast a little bit up, or no, increase the contrast and fading less up, something like this. Okay, and bring the wetness to Z on something maybe like that. Okay, so now I have something coming from beneath, and I'm going to my roughness, and I will affect the wetness. So the wetness now, it's more rough than the overall. Okay, it is just something like this. Okay, you see, that's more or less what I want. Okay, so right now I'm going to material tree, which is this guy here. I just figured it's screw, it's maybe too much up. I will select all of them, bring it down. Okay, something like this, and I'm going here to my material to paste it. I don't know if you remember, then we're gonna be applying all the material again. Okay, overall, so those are my screws, right? And this is my pipe. Okay, this is my pipe. That's what I like. Let's try around the different lighting, like a sun with a sun lighting or something. Okay, it's a nice pipe. Maybe this is too strong. Let's go here to 1, and between the normals and these two guys here and this guy here, let's reduce it a little bit, the depth, right, in between both. And let's crank these guys up a little bit, the strength of the normals on their diffuses. Okay, something like this. Okay, something like that, right? Okay, so now we have our pipe, and we need to bake it now. Okay, because now those textures are complex. Now we need to bake it. Okay, for that we are gonna go to Simple Bake, which is the add-on, the link below. I'm going to the settings. I'm gonna go to my object, bake objects. I will add this guy here, add this guy. If you have multiple objects, you can add them all at once. Okay, and then you go to your PBR material, PBR bakes. You tell which bakes you want: diffuse, metallic, normal, roughness, and what else? Specular. It's good enough for us. Okay, and if you want to go with special bakes, you can go here and bake ambient occlusion as well. Oh, something else that I forgot to mention you, and it gives extra realism, is this setting here. Over material, ambient occlusion. Okay, if you give it extra ambient occlusion, you're gonna give it extra details overall. Okay, and you can reduce the size of your ambient occlusion to something that makes sense. The same you do here. Okay, ambient occlusion, you can add extra ambient occlusion, reduce it to just 1, and in this guy here you can also add overall ambient occlusion, right, and give it as to something like this. Okay, you maybe don't not seeing that too much, but I can guarantee you it gives you extra realism. Okay, right now let's go back to bake. If you want to bake this ambient occlusion, you can also choose here to bake it. But let's not do that because we are baking that on the diffuser already. But if you want, you can do that, just to let you know. Okay, and whatever options, what more options, you basically just need that to choose which object you want to bake, this guy, which PBRs you need to bake. Okay, and you can also choose here all the settings and apply bakes to the original object, which is applying automatically to your materials, and it's gonna give you just one single material for the overall object. Okay, that's amazing. And I recommend in my case, I don't want to have heavy normal maps like EXR normal maps. Hide that. If that's what you want, you can go for it. I don't want it, so I'm gonna press this guy here as well. And that's pretty much all you need to know. You can go to your texture and increase the size of your texture here. I'm gonna give it 2K textures. It's okay for me. Okay, and if I wanna have even more detail, I can go 4K textures, and it's good. Let's go. You know what? Let's make it almost 4K texture and bake it and see how fast it's gonna be. Okay, you can see here because the materials are gonna be shown here. This is the diffuse, you see, and then it starts to bake the other one. The metalness, they call it metalness. Okay, and then I'm gonna show the roughness, maybe roughness. Okay, what else is the other one? Normals. Okay, good, right? Good. And what else? It's done. You see how quick it is? It's done. Okay, so basically what it does, it's like it's giving the overall object just this material right here. Okay, you can exclude everything and have it just one material on your objects with all your maps. Here it's game ready. If you render that out, you have this single material here, which is similar of what you had before, but kind of ready for game. Okay, you can export this to Unreal Engine or Unity or anything that you want, and it's gonna be just as cool as you can see here. You see, that's not amazing? So if you guys are interested, go to Easy Texture Creator on the link below, and also if you want to bake object, go into the link that I'm gonna put in the description of the video as well. And if you like my videos, thumbs up, that helps me to keep doing more videos. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not living from YouTube, so I do all those videos because I like, and because when I feel that I want to talk about something, right? And then I create videos for you guys. And if you have some tips of videos that you may want me to talk about, I came from 3ds Max, so I know 3ds Max, and if you want some tips about it, I can give it to you. And also I'm studying Houdini, and eventually I'm gonna be putting some videos always comparing Blender with Houdini, because my main thing here is Blender and it's my main tool. And yeah, I hope you guys like it, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.